We are. Okay. Hi, everybody. Get out of this. Got it. All right. Happy 2024. So excited to just spend the next hour with you guys going through the two workbooks that I created and setting some goals and just kind of setting you guys up for that. So let me go ahead. I'm going to do a screen share here in just a second. But the reason I wanted to do this workshop is because I know like this is the time of year we're all doing intentions and goal setting and New Year's resolutions, which I personally think are great. But I know that for a lot of people, it feels like, what's the point? Because I set a goal, I set an intention, I do it maybe for a couple weeks, and then I'm right back to my old habits. So a couple of things that I have discovered for myself and for my clients that I think is really helpful is that the desire to do something typically isn't enough to actually do the thing, right? Like we're like, I really, really want to do whatever it is, get healthier or be more to ideal weight or be more fit or whatever the thing is. You can really, really desire it. And then the actual steps to get there, it's almost like it requires a whole different skill set. And so I think in how we set that up and how we set the goals can be incredibly helpful and powerful. So keep in mind as we're going through this that when we go to make any sort of change, as strange as this sounds, our brain actually usually does not want to make change. Even if logically we can look at it and be like, making change would be so good for me. If I worked out more, if I ate differently, if I cut out this, I know logically that I would be healthier, I'd be happier, I'd be better. But our brain's job is to keep us alive. And so it does not like change because change is unfamiliar. It's like, okay, we could go to the gym, but what if you fall off the treadmill? What if you embarrass yourself? What if whatever? It wants to stay in the familiar patterns that it's in. So when you have trouble making change, it doesn't mean you don't want it enough or that you're not motivated enough or that you don't have willpower, all of those things. You just have to understand that the skill set around actually doing the change is like a whole different thing than just knowing what to do or wanting to do it, right? So I talk to women a lot, and the thing they'll tell me is, I know what to do. I just can't seem to actually do it. So I'm hoping with some of the stuff we go through today that it will give you some really simple steps to kind of break free from that pattern and to feel like you can actually start to do the things and then build momentum in that way. And then, of course, once something becomes a habit, now it's familiar to your brain. But again, our brain's job is to keep us alive, and it wants to do what is safe, what is familiar, what is comfortable, what is predictable. And so, again, even if change is good, just understand we're going to come up against that. All right, let me do a screen share here. That's not what I want to share. Okay, so this is the goal setting worksheet, and I'm going to put the link for this in the um, in the chat. Let me find the chat in case you don't have it. Hold on. Let me unshare, and then I'll put it in the chat. Okay, there we go. All right, so I'm going to put the link for this here. I tried to email it out, but I think I accidentally emailed the picture instead. But it's also in the Facebook group. Okay, so let me go back to screen share. And let's go through this. So the first thing before we dive into this, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to, where did we go? Here we go. Okay. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to think about for a second, and I call this the bridge analogy. And this is like a really powerful thing I've done with clients, and I've actually done with other coaches. To take just a second and kind of envision the future yourself that you And I think about it almost like you're standing on one side of a canyon and they're on the other side. And you want to get there, but you don't exactly know how. And it's like you have to build this bridge to get from where you are now to get to this next version of yourself. And the first thing I want to say is that the current version of ourselves, we need to thank her for getting us to this point, right? And so that's really important to understand that change can be fun, it can be good, but the version of you now has done so much. And we're going to talk about that as we go into this workbook. But when you're thinking about this, like this future version of yourself that you want to be and sort of building the bridge, I feel like we want to tackle it from two ways. We have to actually start taking the actions, but we also are changing the beliefs around who we are and who we want to be. So take just a second, and I want you to, you can even close your eyes and think about her and envision her. And maybe it's a year from now. So maybe you are on January 1st, 2025, maybe it's earlier. Really thinking about what does she look like? What is she wearing? What is her day-to-day habits like? How does she feel when she wakes up in the morning? And if she has accomplished the goals that you want to accomplish over this next year, what advice is she coming back to give you about how to get from where you are now to get to where you want to be? So just sort of hold that vision in your mind as we're going through this, and think again about how we're going to build that bridge to get to that place where you want to go. Okay. So when we're talking about goal setting specifically for health factors, this is something that I talk about with my clients. Most of my clients that come to me, they want to eat better, they want to have better health, better fitness, want to be closer to their ideal or happy weight. And so when we break this down, let me see if I can actually zoom this out. Nope, I can't. Okay. We break this down. I want you to think of it this way. So there's really only three things, put it into three categories that we want to look at. So nutrition, which I break down into food, water, supplementation; movement, which is intentional exercise, daily movement, like what kind of job do you have, like how active is your lifestyle; and then rest and recovery. And then the third category is supportive habits. Now, this could be different things for different people, but the three big ones I see with most people, and I would say for myself as well: sleep, getting enough and getting good quality sleep, that can be a game changer; stress reduction and or stress management, because when we have those stress hormones coursing through our veins and when our life is stressful, it makes it hard to do these other things. And then time management, because one of the biggest things, people say is I struggle to have time to work out or to meal prep or to do things. So these are the three things that we're constantly trying to grow, and we're constantly trying to improve, right? And we're just sort of tweaking these things as we go. We can break it down more. I won't go through all that now, but when we look at food, we're looking at quality versus quantity. We're looking at different types of exercise, all of that. Now, overarching all of this is our mindset about it. Your beliefs about what you can do and who you are, I think of it like a magnet. So tell a client everything they should do. I can give them meal plans. I can give them workout plans. But if they ultimately don't see themselves as somebody that is capable of making a change or somebody that's capable of being healthier, it's almost like that belief pulls them back towards old habits. So yes, we want to look at, adding in more protein or, getting more intentional movement. But if you're constantly thinking this isn't going to work, eventually that thought and belief is going to win out. So we want to be tackling it again, thinking about that bridge analogy. This is how we tackle it from both sides. Constantly changing your beliefs, your thoughts, your mindset, how you're speaking to yourself, how you're talking about your body, how you're talking about, what's possible for you, and also doing just the real practical day-to-day things. And then underneath all of this is when we get into the personal factors. And again, this is a little bit different for everybody, but if we're looking at our overall life, all of these things feed in. So if you're going through a very stressful say, relationship situation, or you feel disconnected, or you feel like you're lacking a sense of purpose, or you don't have enough downtime, whatever it is, those things can also have a big impact in how easy it is to grow those plants, so to speak. So as we're going through this, when we say 360, what we're doing is we're zooming out a little bit. It's one of these things where, like, I want to sort of whisper to everybody, like, hey, like, especially my clients that are like, I want to lose weight. And I want to say, like, if that's really what you want, you almost want to put that on the back burner and really focus in on making your life as happy and fulfilling as you can. I mean, nobody's life is perfect, but looking at all these other things, because a lot of times when these other things improve, the nutrition, the movement, it almost like happens more naturally. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're looking at our current self, we're thinking our current self, we're getting us to this point. So take just a second, and again, you can do this on your own. You can print this out or you can do it in a notebook. I do think there's something powerful about writing it down. Just taking a pause to think about over the past year, or if that's too much, over the past 3 months, what are the things that you feel really proud of that you've achieved? It can be specific to health, it can be other things. It could be job related, family related, but what are the things that you feel like you're doing well? Because sometimes when we're thinking about making a change, it feels like we need to do this huge life overhaul. And the reality is there's probably some things that you're already doing really well right now that you've achieved, and you want to take a second to just acknowledge that and recognize, like, oh, I want to continue to do those things. And then same thing with the next question, like, what are your greatest achievements? What's working well? And then once you kind of go through that, now we're going to shift into, okay, but what are the things that aren't really working or that you want to change? Okay. And then with that, what do you want to continue doing, or what do you want to improve on? So kind of pulling that all together. So again, take a second, recognize where you're at, thank yourself for getting to this point, and then, pat on the back for the things you're already doing really well. And then what do we want to improve on? Because sometimes, again, we only focus on that. Now, what would you like to stop doing or completely revise? I also like to rephrase this as, what are you no longer available for? Like, what are you ready to let go in 2023? Again, this could be very specific to your nutrition habits or exercise, but it could also be something else. It could be, I'm no longer for people pleasing. I'm no longer available to, I don't know, be on my phone late at night instead of going to bed or whatever. So what do you want to stop doing or revise? What are you no longer available for? Okay. And again, I'll let y'all actually do this on your own. If you want to take some time to just think through these. What aspects of your life are you most satisfied with? Which aspects are you least satisfied with? And again, focusing on what things are actually working, what things are going well. I did a post yesterday where I said, what if it could be easy? And I love that question, because again, sometimes we feel like a goal, it's got to be so hard and we've got to revise everything. And then we stop and we're like, actually, I might only be just like a few tweaks away from where I want to be. So we're just reframing it. Okay, what motivates you? And so again, this can be very specific, like, what is it that you want at the end of this? Like, what is your why? What are you going for? We'll get into that a little bit more. But it could also be things like, do you need support? Do you need like an accountability partner or a coach? Do you need some sort of schedule where you can go in and you can check something off? Because what I see with a lot of people is the goal, let's say the goal is they want to eat so much better, they want to lose a certain amount of weight, they want to hit a specific fitness goal. You're not going to see that right away. So the problem then becomes, it's very easy to lose motivation. So what are the little things along the way that's going to keep you motivated even before you're seeing some of those bigger external goals happening? And then can you think of a way you might yourself for reaching your goal? Is there something you can give yourself? And it can be, like a night out or food or something like that. But if your goal is to, improve nutrition, is there something besides food as a reward that you can think of? Maybe it's buying a new outfit. Maybe it's buying, something else that would like be supportive in your goals. I was talking to a client the other day, and that was one of their things was, if I get to this certain place, then I want to, buy myself some new clothes to celebrate that. Okay. So again, going back into zooming out a little bit, looking at this overall view of your life. And this may not be, there may be other things that you could add to this. These are some of the big ones. But there could be other things that you feel like you could add here. Personal growth, obviously health is all those things we've already talked about, supportive habits, relationships. This could be friendships, also could be relationship with your, spouse or partner, recreation, fun. Are you doing, do you have hobbies that you want to do? Spirituality, career, a sense of purpose, financial health, all of those things. So you can take a second and just kind of rate yourself on like a scale of 1 to 10 in each of these areas. And then if you want to get more specific in how you'd want to improve that. But again, you think about all of these things interconnect. So many times when I'm talking to clients, I would say pretty much every time I've ever talked to a client that's in a bad health, there's always some sort of underlying cause, something else that's going on in their life that's making it really hard, that's causing them to do more emotional eating, or it's causing them to be stressed and not get sleep and then not be able to work out or whatever. So it's all interconnected, and it's so important to take a look at all of those things. Okay. So now that we've sort of zoomed out, we've looked at everything on this worksheet. It gives you a chance to set 6 goals for yourself for the year. You don't have to do that many. You can do more if you wanted to, but you're going to go through. Now, when you're setting goals, you want them to be as specific as possible. So if you think about, if you've ever learned about the SMART acronym, so goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and or relevant. It can be realistic or relevant. I guess attainable and realistic are kind of the same. And then timeable. So it's putting some sort of time on it. So at this time. So it's really powerful to write something out like, I will be able to run 2 miles without stopping by April 1st, 2024, right? So that would be like a very smart, specific goal. Obviously, some of those are a little bit easier to do than others, depending on the goal, but that's what you want to do, because again, what you're doing is getting very specific with your brain. So saying I want to eat better, for example, right? What does that mean? Can you get more specific? Like I want to improve my nutrition by eating a vegetable every single day, or by, focusing on protein intake, something like that. So the more specific you can get with your goal, the more clear it is, less overwhelming it is, and easier to move forward. So when you're setting these, ask yourself the question, what will this give you? And more importantly, how will you feel when you reach this goal? So one of the exercises that I love to do with clients, it's called the 5 whys. And what you do is you start off with a goal. Somebody will come to me and say, I want to lose weight. Okay. So you start off with, why do you want that? And it might be something like, well, because I want to be healthier. Okay, why do you want to be healthier? And you're like, well, it feels kind of obvious, but really give yourself a second to think through, why do you want to be healthier? Or why do you want to be able to fit in a certain size clothing? Or what is it beneath that? And you keep kind of drilling down, asking yourself why. And what you're trying to get to is really ultimately the only reason we do things is because we think that reaching a goal is going to help us to feel a certain way, right? Like ultimately, why would we do anything if we're not going to feel better? It would be dumb not to, right? So ultimately, there's a feeling that you're going for. And so that's what you really want to try to drill down to. One of the big ones for me this year, as I was looking through my goals, what I came down to is one of the things I want to feel is proud. I want to feel proud of myself. And so again, if we go back to that bridge analogy of where I am now, where I want to be, and we think about, again, that mindset and the beliefs, I have to take specific actions to get to the goal. We can't just believe our way into a new, reality. But what I want to do is I want to try to connect to that feeling of pride as much as I can. Like, what would that look like? If I'm laying my head down the pillow at night, what does it mean for me to feel proud about my day, proud about myself? What specifically did I do? So again, I'm sort of tackling it from both ways. What does it feel like in my body to feel pride? And how do I continue to focus on that instead of, all the things that inevitably are going to go wrong when we go for a goal? Because that's part of it too. All right. And then if you can get really specific about actions, I'm going to just look here on Facebook really quick and make sure there's no comments. Okay. What actions must you take to reach this goal, right? Whether these actions are daily, weekly, monthly, or a one-time action. So if it's exercise, and with the Kickstart guide, I give you a lot more specifics with that. But for now, again, you probably know at least a starting point of what would feel good. Now, here's one thing I want to say with this, and I'm terrible about this. I am so hard on my future self, right? Like when I'm planning stuff out, I'm like, you're going to work out every day and you're going to eat, nothing but salads. And then like my future self is like, no, I'm still you, right? Like, so one of the things when you're doing this is actually really start off conservative, like what actually feels doable. If you are trying to work out more, can you commit to 2 days a week? Right now, you can always do more, great, but could you really commit to 2 days a week, right? Versus starting off saying, I'm going to work out 5-6 days a week, and then it doesn't work, and then you feel bad. So the last thing I'm going to say about this, and then we're going to switch to the other, I want to show you guys the Kickstart guide, and I will send that to you, is that I feel like when we're setting goals, there's always this balance between self-integrity and self-compassion. And these two things need to be matched up, right? So when you're looking at all these areas of your life, are there areas where you feel like it's not about that you're not good enough as you are now, but are there certain areas where you feel like you're a little bit out of integrity with who you really want to be? At the same time, like I just mentioned, when we go for any goal, whatever it is, we're not going to do it perfect. We're just not. And so the self-compassion piece is giving yourself this sort of soft place to land so that you can actually keep going. What I see happen is one of two things. If you have self-integrity without the self-compassion piece, it turns into this like perfectionistic, rigid kind of harshness, right? Where you're beating yourself up, feeling like you're not good enough, feeling like if you mess up, then what's the point and giving up, right? Self-compassion without the integrity piece can often look like not really staying motivated, not really continuing to push forward, sort of letting ourselves off the hook a little bit in a way that doesn't feel good. So again, pairing those two things up and constantly coming back to, am I in integrity with myself, but also am I giving myself a safe place to land? Because again, going for any sort of goal, making any sort of change is going to be uncomfortable because we are doing something new and unfamiliar. Our brain does not like that, at least not initially. And then eventually it becomes the new normal and it's fine. But in the beginning, it's going to feel really uncomfortable. And so if we don't remember that and we don't allow ourselves to kind of stumble and pick ourselves back up and keep going, that's when we get back into those cycles of, I know what to do, but I'm not doing it, and that doesn't feel good. Okay, so that is the goal setting worksheet. Again, feel free to print this out. Feel free to use this specifically, or you can just write these things in a notebook if you want. Or if you're not a writer, go for a nice walk and think through these things. Okay, the next one is the Kickstart Meal and Exercise Planner. So let me pull this up. Okay, so I just put in a bunch of things in here that might be helpful for you specifically around, again, eating a little bit better if that's one of your goals, and or consistently working out. And just sort of putting, again, together a really simple plan that feels doable, that's not overwhelming to your future self, because if we get overwhelmed, we tend to shut down. So we're trying to avoid overwhelm. We're trying to keep it really simple. So the first part here, just some really simple meal prepping things. Now, as far as meal prepping, I don't believe you absolutely have to meal prep every week in order to eat healthy and reach your goals. So if that feels like a barrier to you, just know there's other things you can do. Now, we do want to have some sort of plan because, again, going back to the way our brain works, we have, I call it the toddler brain and the adult brain, right? We have our more primitive brain and we have our prefrontal cortex, which is our thinking and planning brain. So when we're trying to change and go for a goal, the more we can use the prefrontal cortex and think ahead of time and plan ahead of time, the more likely we are to be successful. Because if we are just relying on making a decision in the moment, typically that's when we're going to make decisions based more on just wanting what is going to be comfortable and give us a dopamine hit, honestly. So you don't have to spend hours and hours in the kitchen, but doing something where you just have a game plan, which again, we're going to go through here, is obviously going to be helpful. But again, be realistic. Like, it's okay to include, in fact, I would strongly encourage you to include foods that you actually enjoy, even if they're not the healthiest. I call those joy eats, because when you have those mixed into your diet in a reasonable way, it actually makes it easier to sustain it. So here's some meal prep hacks just to help food stay longer. Some of these you probably already know. And then meal planning hacks, schedule your meal themes. So just coming up with, and actually, we were talking about this the other day. Me and my best friend were talking about this because she just did this exact thing and just came up with, and she's like, oh, I put it together in like 10 minutes because she just came up with a theme for every single night. So you might already do something like this as well, but it just makes it super easy. How many nights a week do you actually want to cook? When do you want to have leftovers? When do you want to eat out? Putting all of that in, but that can make it easy. And I certainly do this. Like, every Monday night is pasta night. Tuesday is usually Taco Tuesday or some sort of Mexican cuisine, and then kind of going from there. Okay, a couple of meal planning resources that I love. Of course, there's always good old Pinterest. Tons of great things on there. Another really good one is Yummly. It's kind of like Pinterest, but literally just for recipes. I save a lot of things on there. You can actually create an account and save things right there. They have a meal planner on there. So if you haven't checked out Yummly, there's links. If you click on this, it'll take you to those. Eat This Much is kind of fun. This is one where you can put in some details about what your goals are, and it'll actually generate meal plans. Again, there's a paid version that you can get, more detailed stuff. But if you're just kind of curious, like, well, what would it look like to get 100 grams of protein a day, or whatever it may be for you, and you can plug it into this and it'll give you meal plans. And you can, I don't know if you can see here, but you can base it on, like, you're doing something more like vegetarian or vegan or paleo or whatever, you can play around and just see what that would look like. And then the biggest one that I use all the time for me for meal planning is something called Plan to Eat. I have used it for years. It's $5 a month and I love it. I store everything in there. In fact, let me click on it really quick because I just want to show you guys this, because I'll find recipes on Instagram. I'll find recipes on Facebook. I'll find them on Pinterest, all the different places. But this is where I store all of my recipes. You can then go into the planner and you can actually put things in there. So like if I wanted to do this, you just pop it in and then it will create for you a shopping list based on whatever you planned out. You can also connect it to your Google Calendar. So you'll see, like, if I've used my Google Calendar, actually connect it and then see on my Google Calendar what we're having for dinner that night or whatever. You can do it based on whatever grocery store. You can somehow change that. So you can have different grocery stores. So like if you get some things at Aldi's or Trader Joe's or Harris Teeter or Publix, you can have different lists for each shopping center. I mostly use it, I'm going to be honest, to store the recipes, because if I find something I like and then I'm like trying to go back and find it again, I just always know everything's going to be right here in Plan to Eat. So I love this resource. Again, I've used it for years and years, and yeah, it's just a great way to keep everything organized as far as recipes go. Okay. I also included for you guys just some really simple meal ideas just to get started. So one of the things that I will say that I think is one of the most helpful things is, I personally, and I know a lot of people that, feel like they have healthy eating down. I don't know if healthy eating is the right thing, but feel like they're able to eat in a way that feels good for their body. is I repeat a lot of things. Like I have my staples and I kind of eat the same things over and over. And it just helps me to eliminate decision fatigue. It makes planning so much easier. It makes shopping so much easier. So I find the things that I like. I have enough that I don't get bored, but I'm kind of just putting them on repeat. And I think that's really important. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every week or even every month or whatever. If you come up with a 4 to 6 week meal plan and then just rinse and repeat it, it's going to save you so much time, energy. And a lot of the things that I do, I am all about like simple things that are few ingredients because I like to cook every once in a while, but I don't want to be doing that every night. So here's just some really simple, easy meals, things that I personally love. I have a great overnight oats recipe. I actually linked it here for you. Greek yogurt. I do Greek yogurt with some, before I go to work in the morning, I'll throw it in a Tupperware with some frozen blueberries and some almond slivers. And by the time I get to work and open it, the strawberry or the blueberries are defrosted, and it's really quick and easy and great. Simple egg scramble, protein pancakes. You can make these up ahead of time. Cottage cheese toast, or really any toast. I'm all about toast. Peanut butter toast, almond butter toast. It's just quick, easy. Some simple lunch ideas here. Again, like a lot of times I will do bagged salad and I'll just cook up some like ground turkey in the beginning of the week and take those for lunches during the week. It's quick, it's easy, it's great. You can do wraps, you can do different sandwiches. So, protein bento boxes, all those things. So some of these have links as well. Simple dinners, simple snacks. So again, not an exhaustive list by any means, but just some things to help you get started. I also put on here for you just a little information about the macros. So when we're looking at putting together meals as much as possible, having a good source of protein, carbohydrates, healthy fats. So these are just some examples. I will say with proteins and fats, sometimes, they go together. So for example, if you're having salmon, you're getting some protein, you're getting some fat. So a lot of times when we're having proteins, we're also getting fats. So keep that in mind. They can go together. So that is again, not exhaustive list, but we'll just give you some ideas. Okay, let's talk for a second about exercise before we get into the planning piece on this. So when we're looking at exercise, we basically want to look at 3 different categories: cardio, resistance training, mobility. Now, that can maybe feel overwhelming to try to get all that in. And what I'll say is it doesn't have to be hardcore. So for me, oftentimes cardio is walking. Try to do that, almost every day. There are times I'll do more. I'll do a spin class or I'll run, but nothing wrong with just doing some, walking if that is all you can do. Resistance training is the one I would say, if you ask me of these 3, which one to pick, especially for women in their 40s or older, resistance training is huge. And what I love about it is 2 days a week. You can do more, but 2 days a week can have such a huge impact. What you're doing is you're waking up and reactivating muscle fibers that have kind of been dormant. And that helps to speed up our metabolism. That helps to improve functional strength. That helps with bone density. That helps our body actually be able to take up and use glucose better. Like there are so many benefits to resistance training. And so I think for a lot of women, probably because of diet culture, it was all about doing the high calorie burners in the moment, and they feel like they don't have time for resistance training. But resistance training is key. So what I would encourage you is, if you are not doing it currently, make a goal, 10 minutes twice a week. You come in my Facebook group, I do free monthly challenges where I do short, really, really short, like 5-minute workouts every day with resistance training. Makes it super easy because my goal is to help women incorporate that more. And then mobility, again, especially, I don't know about you guys, but especially as I'm in my now mid 40s, doing some sort of stretching, balance exercises, anything like that. We can do it every single day, but just throwing that in the mix, it's getting more and more important. I'm always like having hip issues now. I'm like, gotta stretch, roll out, whatever it is. Okay, and so that's it. So just a bunch of really good stuff. And then what you're going to do, again, you don't have to do it on here, but you can print these out if you want, and you're just going in and really quickly planning out what you are going to have. And again, breakfast can be the same thing every week, or maybe you do 2 different breakfast options. You do one during the week, one on the weekend, or one for 3 days, one for 4 days. Rinse and repeat, and then you can put in your exercise plan for the week. This gives you 6 weeks. I mean, really think about if you put this together, you can have your whole year planned out because you 6 weeks and you just, again, just keep repeating that. Your shopping list is done, your planning is done, you can plan ahead. So this will just kickstart for you. And of course you can add snacks in and all that, but this will just give you the bulk of what you need to get going. Now, you can also use this to track how you did. Remember, consistency is more important than perfection. So the plan is great, but of course we're going to have weeks when things get off. So that is the Kickstart plan. And I will send this out in the Facebook group and through email for anyone that requests it and wants it. But hopefully this gives you guys some good resources to just get started with 2024. Again, keep it simple as much as you can. Continue to focus on the feeling that you want to feel. Focus on bridging together where you are now, where you want to be by constantly looking at the beliefs that you're having, the thoughts you're having, the way you're talking to yourself. All of those things are so important. Okay, that is it. Thank you guys so much for spending this time with me. Let me just go on the Facebook group really quick because I can't pull it up on. Okay, perfect. All right, guys, if you have any questions, if you didn't get these guides and you want them, please message me, email me, let me know, and I will send them out to you. But reach out with any questions, anything that you need. Have an amazing New Year's Day, and I'll